Hi guys, and welcome! I wanted to give our beloved Queen Hestia some love, so here we are. As it's a high VIP set that not all players will end up getting, this video contains a bit more than just her memories. So yes, it might be a bit longer than usual, I'm sorry, but the timestamps are here to help you. For now, there's only one set designed by her like I said, but it was enough to make her my favorite character, along with Mercury of course, so I hope you'll get to know and maybe like her too with my video. Let's dive into the Queen's memories. Carmen is the curator of the Royal Museum. It contains records of many legendary queens. Elves live for a very long time, but even this isn't enough to learn even a tiny fraction of knowledge from the ancient kingdoms. He is old now, fading away like the history people have forgotten, so he takes this opportunity to share the story of a star in pigeon history. There was once a queen whose name was erased from pigeon records. But in Apple, she was still praised as the goddess who brought the fire of wisdom. It might seem strange at first, but her story goes back to the times where Apple was still a pigeon colony. With her help, Apple got its independence after 4 long years of conflict. Today, the queen's portrait still adorns the Apple Hall of Fame. With one eye turned towards the future, and the other to the past, she will turn the tides of history. The palace erupted with gossip about the newborn princess with mismatched eyes. An elf unloved by the gods. Even for royalty, the church made no exceptions, and as if following some twisted prophecy, the queen died in childbirth. Heartbroken, the king refused to even see his infant daughter. Her name was Hestia. In his younger years, Carlman tutored the royal family's children, but Hestia wasn't allowed in class. She could only join the others for prayers. After these, the other kids usually rushed to the gardens while she read in the corridor alone. That's how Carlman met her. Looking him in the eyes, Hestia asked, "Aren't you afraid?" But why would he be? He shook his head with a sad chuckle. He knew full well how ostracism and mockery could destroy a child. The young princess seemed undaunted, though. Carlman has never seen anyone's eyes glow with more ardor than hers. "Do you know how to make it move?" she asked, holding up a mechanical pigeon with both hands. Made from unknown metal, it looks just like a real bird. Carlman knew right away it couldn't have been made by a pigeon artisan, seeing the strange symbols and digits on the clockwork. He wondered where she got it. It's true that the palace had collected tributes from various nations over the centuries, and this one seemed to be from the remote Ruin Island. Unfortunately, pigeon technology was so behind in comparison, Carlman couldn't satisfy Hestia's curiosity. He then remembered the Royal Library's archive, where he explored the forbidden section out of curiosity but quickly stopped, as it was frowned upon by a theocracy such as Pigeon. Despite the risks, he told the princess about the deserted section. Her hunger for knowledge had to be preserved. She fell in love with the place. From then on, Carlman often saw her roaming the sea of books. Time flew by, but the young elf still wandered the library alone. Carlman thought that she was happy, and never expected Hestia to rise against the unknown tides of history. That morning, he was feeding doves behind the library, reminiscing about the historical glory of his nation. Priests slowly replaced teachers, people's minds were filled with empty prayers, and he couldn't remember the last time he went to the palace for a lesson. Suddenly, he heard a strange buzzing as a carrier pigeon landed before him. Hestia followed not far behind, smiling as the bird spread its metal wings and perched on the back of her hand. Seeing Carlman's questioning look, she said, "This is Glow." She didn't name the pigeon though. Glow was a friend she met through it. Its eyes shined with a strange silver-white light. He was genuinely surprised she managed to repair it on her own. Carlman couldn't help but inquire about her intentions, and with a firm gaze, Hestia replied, "I want to seek change. We can't blindly hope for gods. We can't wait for the future. We must craft it ourselves. I've come to say goodbye to you, Mr. Carlman." The princess left the palace on her 100th birthday and disappeared. Search parties were sent all across Mirrorland, in vain. The next time anyone saw her was before the throne, at her coronation. Although surprising, it was inevitable. A scandal arose while she was away. The king's eldest son, the Crown Prince August, fell in love with a human who bore him a child. He was tried before the church, and his disownment divided the kingdom's elite. Those who called for Princess Hestia on the throne were counting on her ignorance of politics to gain more control for themselves. Being required to wear a pigeon-style gown for the ceremony, Hestia designed one herself. Under the traditional elements, such as a lily for purity and a cross to represent the church, she hid her own ideas for reformation. The lily was her lucky flower. The front opening meant no one could stop her, and the bonnet provided shade for her bright future. The design was outstanding even by today's standards. Kneeling, she swore allegiance to the gods, but when she turned towards her people, they noticed the metal hem on her dress. She was no puppet. Opening her arms, she made an oath amid their cheers. We embark upon an era of change, and our hands will restore the glory of Pigeon Kingdom. Her Majesty the Queen was an ideal leader and an excellent reformer. On the first day, she already initiated many drastic edicts, but the church and nobility violently opposed them, and all changes were revoked, except in one place. Most nobles considered the apple colony to be unworthy of their attention. After a few years, the queen was ready to present her technological innovations. She hoped the old nobles would see their tangible benefits as they fulfilled the kingdom's needs. It was a beautiful day, and Hestia personally presided over the ceremony. But as she flipped the switch on the machine, the sabotaged mechanism exploded, and the blast threw her back. Screams of terror filled the air as people knelt and begged for the gods' forgiveness. The nobles rejoiced. Soon they could reassert their authority at last. Hestia's scheming brother came out of the shadows, with a strong support from the nobility. He even married a lady from the most powerful house and was already expecting an heir. After the incident, Hestia and all her followers were arrested, but she assumed full responsibility in exchange for their freedom. At the end of the trial, the priests of the Church of Glory pronounced the verdict. The gods give the world as much love as there is sin. You were bestowed eternal life, so you could witness Pigeon's eternal glory. Watching her as she stood in the pouring rain wearing her unorthodox dress, Carlman recalled their first conversation. Are her eyes really a curse from the gods, or a mockery of fate? Is this how history rewards the bold? The dethroned queen was sentenced to pray and serve the gods for the rest of her long life, and her injured leg never fully healed, taking away the determination in her steps. Days blended together in her golden cage. People forgot about her. Only Carmen kept visiting her and was always in awe before the passion that still burned in her eyes after all these years. Until one rainy night in May, 100 years later. The exiled prince returned to the capital and launched a coup. Power was shifting again. That night, Carmen hurried down the forgotten corridor, candle in hand. No guards, only silence and darkness. The small flame flickered in her golden blue eyes as he announced the unexpected ending to her imprisonment to Hestia. As they were talking, footsteps broke the silence outside. The door to her room opened. The half-elf was expressionless, his eyebrows even sharper than his father's. Looking at him, Hestia's face broke into a smile for the first time since her dethronement. You've really grown, Mercury. He bows respectfully. Nice to see you again, Your Majesty. He thanks her. The seeds she had planted during her reign finally sprouted. Despite all the attempts to erase Hestia, Mercury seemed to know all about her. He even read her banned books. He remarked that she didn't seem interested in taking power again, and Hestia agreed. She had fulfilled her duty and wanted to explore the world that was forbidden to her for a century. Mercury taunted her. How could she be sure he'll use this power to brighten Pigeon's future? Standing up, Hestia replied that no matter who holds power, the kingdom will be reborn as long as people are allowed to think freely. He should know all too well what freedom means. Then, with a quick courtesy to the new leader of Pigeon, Hestia walked out of the palace, of the city, and of history. Nothing, not her unfortunate fate, nor even her crippled leg, could stop her as she strode towards the future. And that was Hestia's story. I'm sure you noticed the open ending, so we do have a chance of meeting her again in the future. Before getting to know her, I thought she'd be somehow linked to the Greek goddess of the same name, but turns out the two couldn't be more different from each other. Our Hestia is like a shining beacon of progress who kept following her dreams no matter what. And that's why I loved her scene with Mercury so much. The old and traditional is mirrored with the young and ambitious, and it works especially well here. They're from the same family and it matters. Mercury respects Hestia as an elder, and plays a bit into her more old-fashioned style, but his respect is also due to the fact they share the same ideals, and I feel like he does truly care about her, because she might be the only person ever to understand how he feels and what he went through. What also brings them together is the abuse they endured because of superstition. And yes, neglect is abuse too, and emotional damage, especially towards children, has a big impact. So, both were rejected by their own family, and it's interesting to see how they turned towards progress and innovation, each in their own way to deal with it, and took a path away from the theocracy they grew up in. Well, at least that's my take, and I hope I didn't forget anything. Feel free to share your own thoughts and opinions about it all in the comments, I'd love to read them. Now, another fun thing in the story is Glow, the friend Hestia met through the pigeon. In Caprica's reflection for Into the Ruins, we learn that it is the urban personality of the ruins. Basically, the administration system of the island was so smart and complex that it became an AI. From her profile, we learn just a little bit more, like in her recolored hair, the ombre represents the decline of Pigeon. The earrings description and the thought about the arc tell us about strange ruins the repaired pigeon led her to, and I wonder what she discovered there. So, now that we're done with this all, let's check out the set animations.
An oil painting frame? Pose, and it feels like I'm doing art.
I really like the disappearing painting effect.
I seem to hear the echo of history with every step I take.
Sadly, there's nothing else animation-wise, so let's go to the Moments app. Because yes, I scrolled all the way down to July, and luckily the posts are still there. Now, I gotta say, Yisa's identity makes a lot more sense. Funny how I didn't catch that before. And last, but not least, I absolutely have to show you Hestia's voice lines, especially now that they got updated.
My journey has just started. So has yours. Technological innovation is a spark of hope. Perhaps it will burn the glory of the past, but it can also become a beacon that shines upon Pigeon. The ruins is where I can truly play a valuable role. But it is not my home. The gods granted us faith and strength, but they never promised everlasting prosperity. Did you also start seeking the truth by asking questions? In the name of the gods, I, Hestia, an elf of light, swear I shall bear the glory of Pigeon and ascend the throne. One of my eyes looks at the future, while the other looks at the past. Perhaps I am destined to spend my life witnessing the twists and turns of history. No one can stop your heart from going on a journey as long as you don't give up exploring. Human wisdom and strength bring the birth and reproduction of civilizations. Fanatic prayers are only an excuse people use for their sloth. Even gods will not approve such prayers. I never wish to be remembered by history. All I want is to live with wisdom and glory. I don't care who's in power. When the people's minds are freed, they will rebuild the culture. The future of Pigeon should not be guided by a corrupted scepter. Faith is not only about prayers. We should build the future with our own hands. Progress starts from curiosity and the thirst for knowledge. But in the oldest library of this city, the glory days only exist in worn, dusty books. I didn't leave to just leave, but to bring the light of enlightenment back to Pigeon. The will of the gods should not be misinterpreted or taught by mediocre men. Don't let the dust of history cover up the truth.
And that's all there is for Hestia. If her story piqued your interest, I can recommend 2 related Mercury reflections. Elf's Elegy, that you can find in the Arena shop if you don't have it yet, and Reminiscence of Flower, a recent SSR event, the story of which I covered in my video about it actually, so I'll link it in the end. Oh, and you'll be able to find some extra things, like a timeline, on my Instagram post that I'll upload with this video, so do check it out. But anyway, it's time. If you're still here, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed Hestia's story and all the other things. I'd appreciate a little like and comment as always, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!